Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Adrian Mason. I am back. It is time for my Sunday picks for week 4. And I know it's been a long time since I've done this, and I totally apologize. I'm in the process of relocating my blog site because blog.com sucks. Don't ever use it. Don't ever apply for it. It's terrible. Too many 502, 404 error messages, site not found, bad gateway, site timeouts, all that. It got to the point where it just became cumbersome to actually create blog posts and stay excited about it. So jumped over to WordPress, giving that the test run, see how that goes, and then I'll pay for it and make it a real site. So having said all that, my apologies. Back with the video picks for week 4, the 2014 season. So let's get started. Of course, I had my Thursday night quick pick between the Giants and Redskins. Got that right. So got the W on that, and of course last week I went 12-4 in my picks, so let's hope that trend continues. First up, before I forget, following teams are on bye: the Arizona Cardinals, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, the Seattle Seahawks, the St. Louis Rams, and the Denver Broncos. They all get to chill and watch everybody else play today. So, first game, Packers and Bears, NFC North rivalry, historic rivalry. And of course, you remember the last time these two teams played, Aaron Rodgers came back after hurting his shoulder and led the game-winning touchdown drive to give the Packers the NFC North title and a spot in the playoffs and knock out the Bears. So, obviously, a lot of history, a lot of bad blood between these two teams, and two teams in totally different directions. The Packers are 1-2. They've looked lethargic. They only scored 7 points. 7 with Aaron Rodgers. Think about that. 7 points against the Detroit Lions. And you got the Chicago Bears, who are coming off of impressive victories over the 49ers and Jets, both on the road. And they're 2-1, and they're sitting atop the NFC North tied with the Lions right now. So obviously the Bears are going to continue this trend. This game is at Soldier Field. I'm going for the upset here. I think the Packers, they're in desperation mode. The way they've been playing these last couple games, like the one they played in Seattle, and especially the one they played in Detroit, they know that that's not their style of football, and they know that a loss here will thoroughly put them in a massive hole, not only in the division, but in the conference in general, because they will be sitting on 3 NFC losses. So I'm going with Aaron Rodgers to have a bounce-back game here, even if it's at Soldier Field. Packers over the Bears, 2017. Next up, you have the Buffalo Bills traveling to Houston to take on J.J. Watt and the Houston Texans. Obviously, both teams, actually, there is a fun storyline to this because this is Ryan Fitzpatrick facing one of his old teams. Actually, this is the team that drafted him. And if you remember, when Ryan Fitzpatrick was playing well, they gave him a big contract and, of course, got rich, stopped trying, sucked really bad, got shipped off to other teams. So this is Ryan Fitzpatrick facing his original team with E.J. Manuel at the helm, and the Bills are sitting, Bills are sitting at 1-2. Also, this is it's going to be an interesting game. Hopefully, there's some fireworks because you've got C.J. Spiller, you've got rookie receiver Sammy Watkins, so you're hoping E.J. Manuel can get them in the mix and get them going. On the other side of the ball, Arian Foster will play. He's listed as probable, so he will get the nod. Been dealing with a hamstring injury, so getting him back will be huge for that run game. But of course, it all is about the franchise player. Of course, Andre Johnson is the franchise player, but that baton has been passed to a J.J. Watt. Yes, the most menacing defensive player in the National Football League. He is the best defensive player in the league today. Bias aside, the dude can flat out ball. And since this game is in Houston, I'm going with the Texans. I just think that hometown crowd, I think J.J. Watt, will do what he does best, and that's basically wreak havoc. So I got the Texans in this one. Next up, AFC South matchup here. We've got the Tennessee Titans traveling to Indianapolis to take on Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are sitting at 1-2. Yeah, shocker. 1-2. Obviously, they got a big win over Jacksonville, so it's a division win, so it almost counts as 2 wins. But they're still 1-2. They're at home facing a Titans team that, I don't know, they look like 1 minute against the Chiefs, they look like world beaters. The next against the Cowboys, they came out flat. And so, Jake Locker, he has his moments, but I just think since the Colts are at home, I'm going with the Colts here. I think Andrew Luck has a big day like he did last week against the Jags. So, going with the Colts. Next up, this one's going to be fun. It has been labeled a bloodbath by, said receiver who no longer plays for one team and plays for this one. Yes, Steve Smith. Steve Smith is the most tenured Carolina Panther. Been there since 2001, but thanks to cap issues and, obviously there's no love lost between this franchise and Steve Smith. They shipped him. They basically released him and let him go into free agency. So Baltimore swooped him up. Just so happens Baltimore plays Carolina today. So you already know that storyline is going to be epic. Steve Smith returning. Well, actually, Carolina is going to Baltimore, but that team is going to face Steve Smith for the first time in his career. And I like the Ravens at home. I think Steve Smith is actually going to show his ass and, make Carolina regret letting him go. I mean, obviously, they picked up Kelvin Benjamin to be the successor to Steve Smith, but Steve Smith wasn't exactly done. And if you've seen him in these last couple of weeks, he's far from done. He is, without a doubt, like a Wolverine. And I think the Ravens get the W on this one. Next up, we have the Detroit Lions, who are coming off of a very impressive victory over the Green Bay Packers. And it also came at a cost because Stephen Tulloch is a victim of damn near Darwinism, as he was doing the Aaron Rodgers discount double check celebration after a sack and tore his ACL. That's karma, folks. But aside from that, Lions are 2-1. They travel to New York, or actually MetLife, New Jersey, however you want to call it, to take on Rex Ryan and the New York Jets. I'm going to go with the upset on this one here. I like the Jets. Lions don't play nearly as well in outdoor stadiums. Also, the Jets' run defense is, without a doubt, very stout. You have Muhammad Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson, who are very stout defensive linemen. And obviously, a Rex Ryan-led team is going to be all about that defense. So Matthew Stafford is going to have his work cut out for him. I think that the Jets pull off the upset mainly because they're at home, and that run defense is going to take Joique Bell and Reggie Bush out of the game. And, Geno Smith will do just enough to get by and not enough to turn the game over to the Lions. So I'm going with the Jets in the upset. Next up, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wow. You think with them getting rid of Greg Schiano, you thought that the team would actually step up and, be more impressive. They got Lovie Smith, who led the Bears to great prosperity. Not a Super Bowl win, but hey, they were always in contention in the NFC. So to get Lovie Smith, you think that they could turn the culture around after the dumpster fire that was the Greg Schiano era. And then the Thursday night game happened against Atlanta. President Obama could have declared a state of emergency right then and there for the Buccaneers. Like, they are absolutely horrid. And you would think with all the turnaround in personnel, the players enjoying the new coach and the new offensive scheme, they brought in McCown to basically head up the offense. And of course, with what McCown did, Josh McCown, what he did with the Bears, with Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall putting up big numbers after Cutler went down. And then, of course, they revamped the secondary. They lost Revis, but they brought in Alteron Verner from Tennessee, who was a stout cornerback. And you have Gerald McCoy, Levante David. You thought that they were going to do something. They haven't done a damn thing. Excuse my voice. They haven't done a damn thing but lose, and lose miserably. That game, if you watched that Thursday night game, it was depressing. So they traveled to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. And I like the Steelers because the Buccaneers defense sucks. Deshaun Golson, as a Niners fan, hey, Tampa Bay, thank you. Thank you for paying him all that money and showing us and showing the rest of the league and showing the rest of the world why Trent Baalke did not want to come out the pocket for that man, because he was a product of that scheme and not the actual talent. Sorry. I like the Steelers. The Steelers are at home. That secondary is atrocious, and Antonio Brown's going to have one of those days. And Le'Veon Bell's going to run wild on that shitty run defense. So I'm going with the Steelers. Excuse me. Had a night out last night, so excuse my voice, folks. Next up, we have the Miami Dolphins traveling to Oakland to take on the Oakland Raiders. I like the Dolphins, even though they pretty much laid an egg against the Chiefs last week, but I like Cameron Wake in that defense. It's the Oakland Raiders, folks, and I don't know. They outside of Cleveland, I can't think of a team that's been more miserable in the last few years, well, in the last decade and some change, than the Oakland Raiders. And yeah, Dolphins, just Dolphins, folks. Next up, Jacksonville Jaguars travel to San Diego to take on the Tennessee Chargers. Excuse me, San Diego to take on the San Diego Chargers. San Diego Chargers are, of course, their biggest win of the season was beating the defending Super Bowl champs, Seattle Seahawks. Then they went to Buffalo, beat the Bills. So now they're back home, and they take on a team that's traveling from one coast to the other. And it's the Jaguars. I like the Chargers. And you should too, unless you're a Jags fan. And even then, you should like the Chargers. Next up, the undefeated, one of the 5 undefeated teams left, Philadelphia Eagles traveling to Levi Stadium to take on the 49ers, who are 1-2. And of course, I'm going to do the analysis side, and I'm going to do the biased fan side. Analysis side, they look terrible. Their defense is not generating a pass rush. They are collapsing in the second half of games. They're the only team in the NFL that has not scored a fourth quarter touchdown, period. They get off the fast starts, and then they quit. I don't know if it's Greg Roman with his offensive play calling, just playing it safe, which, of course, you can't do. Or they just run out of gas, and then of course the penalties. So this, like the Packers, they are in total desperation mode right now. Fan side speaking. Of course, you look at that game, and they have been hit with a lot of questionable penalties, which turned out that they didn't get fines for. But of course, you can't turn back the hands of time and say, "Oh, hey, that's not a penalty. Don't flag them." So of course, those penalties, usually on third downs, they move the chains for the opposing team, and of course it keeps the defense on the field, and of course it keeps the defense fatigued. So, yeah, I'm going for, by Vegas standards, this isn't an upset, but by straight up picks, this is an upset. I'm going with the Niners here because they know a 1-3 start spells doom, and they've had miserable games against the Bears, they've had miserable games against the Cardinals, which all happened in the second half. So Niners know that it's put up or shut up time, and you don't normally go against a team that's in desperation mode. So I'm going with the Niners. Both sides, fan and analyst side. Next up, Atlanta Falcons, coming off of that curb stomping of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, travel to Minneapolis or University of Minnesota Stadium because they don't have a home yet to take on the Minnesota Vikings. And of course, Adrian Peterson embroiled in that child abuse situation. Of course, he's suspended indefinitely. Yikes. And, of course, the Vikings are without Matt Castle. So today, the Teddy Bridgewater era is upon us. And it's going to get off to a rocky start because I have the Falcons in this one. Too much firepower on offense. Matt Ryan has been playing his best ball since that 13-3 season in 2012. And, of course, Roddy White, Julio Jones, Devin Hester. Devin Hester returning to the NFC North, which he used to torment and abuse. So I like the Falcons. Sunday night game, we have the New Orleans Saints, who are 1-2 as well, traveling to Arlington to take on the Dallas Cowboys, sitting at 2-1. Of course, the big story is about Romo and his back, and sending him out of practice, and of course he will play tonight. Last time these two teams met, the New Orleans Saints racked up an NFL record 40 first downs in that game. 40, folks. That's Madden easy mode. And so they traveled to Dallas to take on the Cowboys team who came from behind to beat the St. Louis Rams. Of course, my pick. I always pick the Cowboys over the Rams because for some reason the Rams just can't beat Dallas. But in this game, okay, this is once again a turf stadium, a domed turf stadium. I like the Saints. Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham, Marcus Colson, Brandon Cooks, Kenny Stills. It's a track meet. It's going to be a lot of speed. And, of course, Dallas' defense, it's still bad. It's horrible. Morris Claiborne, they're the number one draft pick in 2012. Flat out bust. Yeah. I think Drew Brees is going to air it out and annihilate the Cowboys tonight. So, Saints. Final game of Week 4, Monday night game between the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead. And I'm going with the upset here. I'm going with the Chiefs. It's at Arrowhead. News reports, injury reports, good news for the Chiefs fans. Jamal Charles is looking to play Monday night. And, of course, they have Niall Davis, who's stepped up admirably while he's been, nursing his injuries. Like I said, this game is at Arrowhead. It's one of the more difficult places to play, like CenturyLink, loud crowds. And, of course, the Titans had their way with them, but, that happens every now and then. But I like the Chiefs in this one. I think Alex Smith plays his brand of smart ball. Reed knows his limitations, knows his strengths, and will utilize them. And, the Patriots, Tom Brady, guess what, folks? As much as everybody keeps saying he's elite and he's at the top of the class, he is 30th in the league in yards per attempt with, less than 6 yards per attempt? Like, okay, Alex Smith has always been at 6. When you're below him, you suck. So, check down Charlie versus King check down. I take King check down, a.k.a. Alex Smith in this. Chiefs. And those are my picks for the rest of Week 4. So stay tuned. Hopefully, I will get back in rhythm and get this up and running. Get my What Have We Learns back. Get my video picks up again. And for those that want to know the actual link and address, it's masonnflblog.wordpress.com. So I'll post that in blog.com because I'm just going to redirect all traffic to that site. So till then, it's Adrian Mason signing out. Peace. And